In this video, I am going to show you how we can get and display data from an API to our web page using JavaScript. So an API or application programming interface is a way for different applications to communicate and exchange data. So there are many APIs available on the web that provide useful information and services. For example, there is an API that gives us data about countries such as their name, flag, population, languages, and currencies. We can use this API to create a dynamic web page that shows information about any country we want. But how do we get the data from the API and use it in our web page? Well, there are different ways to do that, but in this video, we will focus on one of the oldest and most common ways, which is using the XML HTTP request object, and this object allows us to send and receive data from a server using HTTP requests. So let's get started. Now to get country data, we need so-called endpoint. Now to get this endpoint, we need to search for public APIs. After searching this, you can see we have this first link. Just click on this link and here you can see we have a collection of different types of APIs like animal, enemy, anti-malware, art and design. So from here, we can use any kind of API that we want in our project. And from here, we need an API which is called REST country. And here you can see we have this link. Just click on it, and after clicking, we will get our endpoint. Now here on this page, we have all the details about this API, how we can use it, and here you can see we have different types of endpoints. If we want to get all countries data, we can use this endpoint, and if we want to search country by its name, we can use this endpoint. And similarly, if we want to search country using its country code, we can use this endpoint. But we are going to use search by country name. So I want you to copy this endpoint and paste it here. Const URL is equal to then backticks, and here we are going to paste our endpoint like this. Now here instead of this name, we are going to write the country name of which we want to display data on our web page. For example, we can write Japan. Now in order to use this endpoint, we need to create an XML HTTP request object. So we can write const request is equal to new XML HTTP request like this. And here we have a mistake, which is we don't need this placeholder here. So please remove this placeholder, and after creating this object, we are going to write request dot open to open the request. And here first of all, we are going to write the method which is get to get data, and then we are going to pass this URL from where we want to get data like this. And after this, we are going to send the request. To do this, we can write request dot send like this. Now to handle the response from the server, we need to add an event listener to this request object that will execute a function when the request is loaded, and then this function will receive the response as a parameter and parse it as a JSON object. Then we can access the data of the country from the JSON object and use it on our web page. Now we are going to add event listener to this request. So request dot add event listener. Now here the type of event is load, and then we have our function, and in here first of all we are going to pass the response as a JSON object. So here we can write const data is equal to JSON dot parse and then parentheses, and here we are going to write request dot response text like this. Now if we log this data, this is an array, so here I am going to use destructuring by adding the square brackets, and if I hit save, and now this is the data of Japan that we got from the API. As you can see, it has the properties such as name, flag, region, population, languages, and currencies. And we can use these properties to display the information on our web page. Now to display the information, we need to create some HTML elements that will hold the data. For example, first we need this div element with the class of country container. Then here in our JavaScript file, we are going to write the HTML like this. Now I just created this country card container with this image element, and then here we have some headings where we are going to display the country name, its region, its population, and languages and currencies. Now to display this image, we need to expand this object, and if we scroll down, you can see we have this flags property, and then in here we have this png property. So to access this, here you can see we can write data, and on this data we have this flags property, data dot flags, and then in here we have this png property, and here we have this url from where we will get the country's flag. So data dot flags dot png, and then we have this heading element where we are going to display the country name. So to find the country name, you can see we have this name property. So data dot name, and then we have this common property, and here you can see we have country name which is Japan, and then in this h3 element we are going to display its region. So to find the region, you can see we have this region property. So here we can simply write data dot region to access this property. And after this, we have this paragraph element in which we are going to display its population. So here in our object, you can see we have this population property. So to get this, we can simply write data dot population, and then we have another paragraph where we are going to display languages. So data dot languages, and then in our languages we have this jpn property. So to access this, we can write data dot languages dot jpn like this. And at last we have this paragraph where we will display the currency. So to get its currency, you can see on our data object we have a property called currencies, and in here we have this jpy property and then name. So jpy like this. Now if I hit save, so this is the html that we want to display on our web page with the country's data. Now in order to do this, we need to select the country, and then we need to select the country name. So here in our web page, we have this country card container. Then here we have this paragraph where we are going to display the country name. So to get its currency, you can simply write data dot currency, and then we have this paragraph where we will display the currency. this country container element. So const container is equal to document dot query selector dot countries container. Now after selecting this, we are going to write container dot insert adjacent HTML, and then we need to specify its position, which is before and the second argument is the HTML that we just created. So if I hit save, and if we take a look on our web page, you can see we have a card with the flag of Japan, and then the country name is Japan, region is Asia, and the population is 125 million, and the language is Japanese, and the currency is Japanese yen. So this is how we can get data from an API using this XML HTTP request object and display it on our web page. And that is it for today's video. So we have seen how we can use the XML HTTP request to get and display data from an API to our web page. However, there is a problem with this approach. The XML HTTP request object is an old and outdated way of making HTTP requests. It has some drawbacks, such as it is verbose and complex to use. It does not support promises, which are a modern way of handling asynchronous operation, and also it does not handle errors well. Therefore, in our next video, I will show you a better and easier way of making HTTP request, which is by using the Fetch API. So I hope you found this video helpful and informative. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to join this web development journey with us. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Keep coding and keep creating. I will see you in the next video.